We have fun here.
We better not. This is a business podcast.
That is true.
If you... All right. Welcome to the inaugural episode of... Well, should I be listening? I guess I'll look at...
Wide.
The wide, because we'll both be in there.
Yeah.
Welcome to the inaugural episode of Number Goes Up, the first and only business podcast run by two guys who kind of know what they're talking about. I'm your host, Kingsley Nlewedim, joined as always by...
W. Tanner Kirk.
Here in the beautiful GLOBIS studios.
Wow!
I think we could do the wow in post. You don't have to chase yourself or nothing.
I was feeling it.
No, keep it up.
Yeah. It's very vibey.
Yeah, you think it... I mean, this is a certain kind of a vibe, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Dramatic.
Mm-hmm. Like,
Cold.
Open.
I feel like Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chilling
Mr. Freeze
businessman.
makes number go down, though.
Yeah, which is not what we want.
That is true.
Yeah. So, AI is the business topic of the year.
Truly.
Yeah. But how's it affecting schooling? We work at GLOBIS University, Japan's #1 MBA program, and this has been a hot topic on our minds the entire time.
Yeah.
Ever since OpenAI released ChatGPT, every business has been talking about utilizing AI. It's been shoved into every single program that I use on the computer.
Definitely.
I can't go 5 seconds without seeing an AI chatbot.
Inescapable.
Yeah. And that's also true for learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, our future business leaders and whatever other things you study in college are all using AI to learn or teach or whatever.
Yeah, it's truly the talk of the town.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of outrage, a lot of mixed opinions, a lot of YouTube thumbnails about this idea of AI cheating in higher academia.
Yeah, and we've been, we sort of know what we're talking about. We've done a little bit of research, and today we're primarily going to be talking about an article from The Intelligencer titled, "Everyone is Cheating Their Way Through College."
Which, by the way, doesn't sound real, The Intelligencer.
Well, I mean, it's a subsection of New York Magazine, I guess, but...
Allegedly.
Sounds
like a 1990s RoboCop spinoff.
Dude, actually, like a RoboCop, but he's like a librarian.
Yeah, The Intelligencer. He's enforcing the Dewey Decimal System on these kids who use ChatGPT too dang much.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? Let's cut that because I want to use that. We're right. All right, this is copyright. We're using this for our script later.
Okay.
Yeah, The Intelligencer.
The Intelligencer, that's fair.
All right. So the main through line of that article was about I guess he's no longer a student, an entrepreneur named, I can't read my own handwriting, Chungin Roy Lee.
Yeah.
We're going to call him Roy Lee from now on because I guess that's what he prefers to be called.
Yeah.
And he was a Columbia student who, you might have read about him in the news. He broke out into virality for creating a program that hid your usage of AI to cheat during leak code interviews.
Right.
And for those of you that don't know, leak code are these like exercises that employers use to determine whether or not you have the programming chops to join their company.
Right.
And they're usually not necessarily representative of the day-to-day work you're doing, but more about finding out, how well you can solve these problems.
Yeah, it's kind of like, or it seems to me, because I'm not in the computer science realm, but it sounded to me that it's almost like a rite of passage thing. Like all of these people, kids these days, back in my day, I did 600 leak code problems, and everyone goes through them, but it's more a matter of memorizing the solution and being able to regurgitate it back out, right?
I can't verify that, but it does seem like something that everyone hates.
Yeah, I believe that's the situation. I was listening to a couple interviews that this kid has done, and that's what he says.
Well, then I trust that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the long and the short of it is that people are, ChatGPT and other generative AI programs are really good at performing the kinds of tasks like essay writing or research that normally you would learn in school, and I could take the time to do my essay, or I could use the essay writing machine.
Right.
And the essay writing machine will get it done
Right.
in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
What would take me 10 hours to do.
Right.
And that kind of radical change so quickly is really affecting education. I've talked to faculty and at schools, ours and others, who find it to be very difficult to adjust for.
Yeah. I mean, if the internet at large is anything to go by, everybody is cheating.
Yeah.
Every college student in the world is cheating right now.
Yeah, and it's kind of, you're incentivized to do it, because if everybody else is doing it, it does feel like you're kind of wasting your time by not doing it if they're going to get a good grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, too, going more into the Intelligencer article, something that I got out of it with this Lee guy's story is that he noticed that everybody else around him was cheating. Mm-hmm. He started cheating on college essays, et cetera, using AI. And in that article, he referred to it as a way to hack college. Mm-hmm. Or he realized, or he felt that college is a hackable experience.
Yeah. He mentioned, this is a direct quote, that college was the best place, was not really about learning, but it's the best place to meet your future co-founders and your wife.
Exactly. I think it's also interesting to note that his story, I think he got into another Ivy League school at first.
He got into Harvard, I believe.
And then he got kicked out for goofing around too much in his senior year of high school.
Yeah.
So I also feel like there's a level of, how much did this guy really want to go to an Ivy League school? Or was it like parental pressure?
Can't really,
Right. But doing the thing that he feels like he's supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
So I do feel like there's a bit of a rebellious spirit there, And I'm gonna come at this with a bit of a hot take. I've been thinking about it for a while, and I'm just gonna say it. I don't see what the big deal is. And I would even go so far as to say that I challenge the idea that it should be considered cheating in general.
Okay, can you elaborate on this? Because I feel like I came out of reading this with the exact opposite take.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this Lee kid's, I don't mean to sound so dismissive of him, but he's a younger guy, he's clearly Gen Z. And again, it goes back to his explanation that he feels like he has hacked the system. And I feel like in general, higher education has gotten to this point where a lot of kids find themselves there because that's what they have to do to get a good job, right?
Yeah.
And so they want to do that in the most efficient way possible because they're not interested in these classes that they're writing essays in, or even if they are interested in it, they have been conditioned to this point where they feel like they can hack their way around it. And if it gets them to the same end goal as everybody else, why not?
Yeah. No, I mean, there is a certain logic to that I totally agree with. But it really comes down to, in my mind, what is the point of going to college?
For sure.
And I think you hit on something very important there, which is that for the last, I don't know, let's say 20 to 30 years, at least since my youth, it was kind of drilled into me that like you have to go to college because that's where you can get a job that allows you to pay your bills and get like dignity and the perks of being able to sit in an air-conditioned room, not have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go do hard labor at a construction site. Like you need to get that 4-year degree, and that's the end goal. So rather than it being necessarily a place to like grow or for academia, it's like a stepping stone to get that job that gives you enough money to only have 2 other guys living in your apartment with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, if you're just going there for the rubber stamp of it all, that does make sense. But to me, the reason why I think it's like, the reason why I want to push back and disagree is that I don't think that should be the point of a university. And I don't think that like by taking the shortcut. Like you're not, the problem isn't that you're cheating on the essay. The problem is you're cheating yourself out of being able to like go through the process of writing the essay. And I think that it's like, we have gotten to a point where, you know, the point is to get the good grade as like the stated goal. But really the point of writing an essay is not to have an essay that's good. It's to read the material, think about it, figure out a way to formulate your own thoughts, and wrestle with that, and then compose those thoughts and make an argument. Right. It's not about like saying the right things about, you know, a Sylvia Plath poem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with you that it's a total waste of time to go to college and use ChatGPT to get your way through it. But again, playing devil's advocate, if college to you is just a means to an end, right? And then using AI gets you to that end, who am I to say that you're a cheater or you should be looked down upon compared to other people, especially if it's going to land you in a job where these days it seems like more and more across FANG and other companies, you are encouraged to use AI in your day job as well, and to become more efficient with your time and get more things done with AI. So to me, it feels a bit contradictory as well to kind of poo-poo these kids for using AI when I feel like at the end of the day, they've figured out a way to play the system that's gonna get them to where they need to be. And I mean, this guy, as we could dive into it a little bit, but as we all know, he's really capitalized on this opportunity. He's created his own startup, and now he's a multimillionaire.
Right. But I guess to your point, I think that maybe in the short term, like for the next year or a couple of years or so, that does make sense. But if you are buying into the idea that we'll be using AI necessarily as a part of our work indefinitely, and that the only thing you need to do is learn how to use AI, and you don't develop the critical thinking skills, the higher level thought processes, what is the point of you being the person in front of the computer doing this? Like, if everybody is judged based on their ability to use the answers machine, why would I hire you? Why wouldn't I just cut out the middleman?
Yeah, that's a great point. And again, I do feel like it is a very concerning trend that we're going down. So I guess the way I feel about it, maybe putting it in a different mindset or twisting my point a little bit, is it the kid's fault? You know, are the students to blame for this type of behavior? Because the reason why I bring that up again is just kind of like the internet outrage that I've seen about this topic. It seems to kind of point to these kids and call them cheaters as a pejorative and kind of eye roll or talk about how lazy this generation is. And of course, we can go back through time and every generation feels that way about the next. So I guess in a way, while I definitely don't agree with what he's doing, and I do feel like it's a total waste, and it's scary that it seems like an entire generation of kids are losing passion for developing really essential skills like critical thinking that makes us human. Is it really their fault? Like, how can we address this in a way that's not just pointing at boogeymen, you know?
Yeah, that's a really fair point. Like, because you really are incentivized to just like do that, right? We've developed a system for that, and so I can't blame the students if, you know, at the end of the day they get the results they want. Like he found his co-founders at the university. They got in the room, they got the funding, and now he's moved out, and you know, he got his bag.
Yeah,
he was vindicated, and he was right.
Also, to be fair, he did not graduate.
Yeah, of course, yeah, because you don't need to.
Right.
If your goal is to get, you know, into the startup space.
Yeah.
That's the way that the society has been set up, and I can concede that point.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's going to have some long-term negative effects that are not being taken into account in the way that, most shortcuts that we take are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, like, the product he made is called Cluely, the turning point of thought. And
Crazy.
yeah, and the idea is that it's an AI assistant that's like always listening to you and always like trying to prod you or provide you the like correct next step.
Right.
And like, I think the commercial for it that they made, and to be clear, I do think that they were making it to be tongue-in-cheek and in jest, but the situation was, a guy's on a date with a woman and he's wearing these glasses that have the AI in them, and they're telling him what to say, all the right things to say, how to get her to continue to go out with him. And like, I look at that and it's like the grimmest thing in the world. Like,
Yeah.
The things that we're using generative AI for, like writing and creativity, like that's the point of being a person, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like, why would I want to use the cheat code to convince a person that I love them?
Right.
When the point of going out on the date is to find someone to love. Like,
Right.
why am I offloading that?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
offloading love and art? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Especially how at the end of the commercial, he stands up and he's like, wait, I think your paintings are good and you're beautiful. Yeah, that definitely made me feel bad inside. I think, though, this is what makes me feel so conflicted about it, because the use case, what's the name of the company again?
Cluely.
Cluely, right, is that he also filmed himself doing an Amazon interview using Cluely throughout the interview to answer all the questions and pass the coding challenges.
Yeah.
And Amazon offered him the job. He later declined, and I guess, obviously made it public that he got a job at Amazon using this AI app on his browser.
Right.
So, and then there's also anecdotal stories about how recruiters at a big FANG company hired somebody, but then the first day they come in and they don't know how to boot up the program that they need to use. But again, it makes me feel conflicted, because if you can get a job this way, right? Like, you can get into the job. I can understand why college kids these days see that and then think to themselves, why would I do anything else? Because this is going to get me the job.
Right, but you get the job and then you can't perform the job.
Right.
And then they take away the job.
Right. So, I mean, I guess what I want to, the question that I want to throw out there is, what changes need to happen in academia where we can start to facilitate this feeling that there is, value in thinking for yourself? Because I think we share the mutual existential fear that we're losing the will to think for ourselves, right, as humans. And I mean, again, Cluely, right? Cluely's tagline is, what is it?
It is, I feel like we're doing too much plugging. The turning point of thought.
Yeah, the turning point of thought.
Which, I'm going to call my shot right here. If that program takes off, that is like the grimmest tagline ever.
Yeah.
It's like the turning point of thought, but we're turning it off.
Yeah, the turning point of thought terrifies me, especially if it's like you can't think for yourself to compliment your date.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, where are we at? Like it's
what are we doing, man?
Yeah, it's going way too far. But I guess I'm coming at it from, rather than, again, poo-pooing these kids and being like, oh, you just have no gumption. Like, what do you think we could do? Or do you have any ideas of like things that could be done?
I mean, like,
I know, it's a tough question.
it's outside of the scope of
Sure.
business. I mean, first of all, let's get some thoughts in the comments. We
Yeah,
gotta get the plug in. But like, it has to be huge societal shifts in like the value of a degree program. On the job training, I think, has largely disappeared. Like, that one could trick your interviewer with the AI. I think often, or like that you can cheat through the tests, is also indicative of the fact that teachers don't have enough time to grade.
Right.
People don't receive on-the-job training anymore. You have to know what you're doing before you get in there.
Right.
And so there's a lack of infrastructure around supporting people in career training, and a lack of resources in terms of the ability for educators to give the time and attention that is required to grow somebody into a functioning like member of society. And ultimately, it's like we have to have a higher value on like education, on job training, on workers and their rights and their standards of living, and a lower expectation on like on paper productivity.
Yeah.
But that's really like I
feel
can't
you.
do that.
Yeah,
That's
of
not a me
course.
thing.
Of course. I mean, I think it's like the old adage, it's like what my mom always said, too much of anything is not a good thing. Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing.
Yeah. Except ice cream.
Except ice cream.
Always works out.
I've never, ever been in a situation where I ate too much ice cream and regretted it the next day.
Yeah.
Having said that, I know that there were some other news stories that we were talking about teachers
Yes.
getting caught using AI.
Yes.
And to that extent, it's obvious that AI is here, it's not going anywhere, and it's something that we all are going to have to learn to work with. And so it's a tool, right, that needs to be respected, I think. And we need to see how, we're still figuring out, I think, as a society, how to best use it. But I'm also interested to hear what you think about the situation where teachers get caught using AI.
Right. So I think that like,
And is that a bad thing?
as an employee of Globis University, Japan's #1 MBA program in the Technovate era, it's important to understand the business landscape and to like, you know, if everyone's expected to use AI, the teachers have to know how to use AI, and they have to know its limitations, how to shepherd people into using it, how to find ethical ways to utilize it. And, you know, there are some things like if you're using it to create worksheets, for example, that's not necessarily too different than getting a worksheet from a company that produces worksheets. So that it's not like, I don't think that necessarily using it as the teacher, if you're careful and you're like utilizing it properly, is quote unquote cheating or a bad thing, which maybe sounds hypocritical to what I was saying before, but the difference is, at least for the time being, the teachers were engaged in the pre-generative AI critical thinking pipeline, and so they would ideally be able to catch the red flags, understand what's going on, and like, you know, use it responsibly. Is that always true? Not necessarily. But like you said, if it is here to stay, we have to be aware of it. So I'm okay with it being used in some capacity in the classroom. And I know that, like, for example, in the medical field, it's being used to help with diagnoses and stuff. And like, I can see a pathway for it to be heavily involved in like cancer screening and stuff. But the problem is, I don't want 10 years from now to be treated by a doctor and then they go like, oh man, I did all my stuff through ChatGPT. Let me just pull up the hallucination machine and type in your symptoms to see what's going on.
Yeah, I watched a YouTube video the other night of this. He's a gamer guy, and he's 36 years old, and he had a heart attack. And it was a freak accident kind of thing. But he said that he started getting these various symptoms, and it was one of those things where he was just going to try to sleep it off or whatever. But what's really stood out to me in the video is that he said he put his symptoms into Grok, and then Grok immediately said, this is a medical emergency, and you need to seek emergency care right away. And it turned out that he was having what's referred to as a widowmaker heart attack. And he was within 60 minutes of certain death. And I mean, that was a small part of his story. But I also found that was fascinating, that this, because I'm still not at the point personally where I immediately go to a language model for what I would consider more like Googling events. And I think it's common wisdom, like don't listen to Dr. Google if you put your symptoms into Google.
Yeah. They'll tell you you're dying of cancer.
Right.
Yeah.
But in this situation, this dude went to Grok. Grok was like, do not mess around with this. This is really serious. That signaled to him that he needed to get immediate medical attention, and Grok like probably saved his life.
Yeah.
So that's crazy too, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm really glad that he got the medical attention he
course,
needed. But
yeah.
then also, as soon as you said Grok, I was like, wow, I'm really glad he asked Grok on one of the days where it wasn't programmed to tell you about the white genocide in South Africa, rather than the days where it's supposed to, do its job. So it's like, because of the way that these like large language models work, you can't trust what it's saying. And like in this case, it was right. But I'm sure that one day there would be an instance where a guy is having a widowmaker heart attack and he types it into Grok and it says, nah, it's no big deal. And then he just like doesn't seek medical advice because he has been, going through school using this thing and then getting the results he wants. And he hasn't learned to think critically. And he's just like, oh, well, the machine is right. The machine is smarter than me.
Yeah. No, yeah. I totally agree. I mean, when he said that in the video, it made me like, what? I couldn't believe that he said it he was so cavalier about it. Like,
Yeah.
So I was having these weird chest pains. I sat down. I put my symptoms into Grok.
Yeah. Wow.
It was just like, he said it so casually.
Yeah.
Like, of course I would. But then again, like in the article that you sent me, where a young lady in medical school talks about how doctors are using AI to help them diagnose people. So what is the I mean, obviously, doctor went to medical school for 8 years.
Yeah.
I understand.
Also, the AIs they use are different.
I get. Are they?
Yeah, there's some medical AIs, but they're not like large language models. They're like things that are trained on like huge quantities of like specific medical data.
Okay.
And so they're like,
only pulling from. Okay.
Yeah, versus like, I mean, Grok is a machine that like guesses the next word in a sentence.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, that makes sense. But I guess at the end of the day, it seems inevitable to me that most industries are embracing AI as a tool, and we need to figure out from a base level. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, where does it become immoral? How much of it, going back to the core topic of kids cheating in college with AI, especially if, I agree. I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
But it's like, so the teacher uses it to make a quiz.
Yeah.
And then the kid uses it to take the quiz, right? So if I'm putting on my rebellious 20-year-old hat, what's the difference, man?
Yeah.
And where is the difference?
And I think that the moralizing comes from the moralizing and the educational value are almost at odds. Whereas like, I think it becomes it's immoral to cheat if you're thinking of it from an angle of this is about the grade. And if you're approaching school from the standpoint of somebody who's like, the goal of going to school is to get a good grade, then I think that like the dirty cheater like moniker is appropriate.
Yeah.
But if you're going to school to learn, it's not immoral to like cheat on the exam necessarily, but you're like, it's a waste. It's a loss.
Yeah.
You've taken this opportunity to grow and to like better yourself and to make yourself like more adaptable to situations and to like, improve and better the lives of the people around you and just like appreciate the like fact that you're a living thing on the earth.
Exactly.
And you're offloading it to a machine because like it gets you out of this situation that you're in right now.
Okay, so basically, hear me out. If it says specifically in the syllabi that AI is banned, and if you're taking this professor's class, it is expected of you to use your own noggin and make mistakes and learn from your mistakes and develop yourself as a human being, right? And you use AI, you are cheating. I want to just throw that out there. You are 100% cheating. And as someone who used to be a rebellious 20-year-old, I understand the thrill of being like screw you, teach, I'm doing it my way. But that is cheating, and I do feel like it makes sense to be academically disciplined, et cetera, for doing that. Having said that, the thing that I wanted to go back to wrapping up is that I do remember back, I think when I was in middle school, Wikipedia came out.
Yeah.
And when I was in elementary school, I was taught how to use the Dewey Decimal System. Kids probably don't even know what that is anymore.
Well, I mean, what's the point?
Exactly. But
Yeah.
I do remember, going through the physical cards and looking at books and then being told that if you use Wikipedia for your 6th grade book report, I will fail you. You cannot trust Wikipedia. It's the easy way out. You have to use the school's encyclopedia to source your report.
Yeah.
And everyone used Wikipedia, and I used Wikipedia, and I thought I was so smart and clever. And it just, every kid figured out that you can use Wikipedia and get away with it. And it reminds me of that scenario, or when your math teacher tells you no using a calculator, but we all use calculators, you know what I mean?
But how's your timetables?
I actually do not know my times tables.
Exactly. 'Cause you're on that calculator.
No, yeah. That, so it just reminds me of that. That's what I can relate it to. You know what I mean? And I do think it's troubling. And I'm not sure exactly what the answer is, but I hope people can go to school or not and pursue something that is worthwhile to them.
Yeah.
I guess my thesis is I feel like this particular kid's story, it seemed to me like he was going to school because he felt like he had to.
Yeah.
He felt that pressure, and he clearly resented the entire process. And so this was his way of rebelling. He is a huge outlier. The vast majority of kids going to these schools using AI this way are not going to become multimillionaires.
Yeah.
So he's an interesting outlier story, but I also personally feel like anyone that's listening, especially if you're younger or you're considering higher education, I would hugely implore you to consider exactly what it is you want to do and move through life doing you, man. Like, don't do it for other people. I think that's the bigger symptom here, personally.
Yeah, just to wrap up, I think that you're right on the money. If you're looking at going to college as a means to an end to get a job where you have a little bit of dignity and sitting inside, regardless of what it does for your learning or your career or any of that, I understand you gotta make money, but we do gotta figure out a way to get people dignified work and like money and without having to take on this college burden, so that people who aren't interested in college don't have to go to college.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're choosing to go to college, you're choosing to do it because you really want to.
Exactly.
And it's going to benefit you in a tangible way.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a crazy situation. I say it all the time to you. It's like, it's a crazy world we live in.
Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting conversation. I really enjoy being devil's advocate. But yeah, I think it's only going to keep progressing.
If you're also watching this and you want to talk to us about it, we're very open to hearing your thoughts. Please leave them in the comments.
I legitimately very honestly want to hear other people's takes about this in the comments.
So thank you for listening to Number Goes Up. Please remember to hit the subscribe button. Leave a review on any podcast app you're listening to this through. If you're watching this on YouTube, remember to subscribe and leave a comment down below. And remember, as always, the number must go up. Bye.
Bye.
See you
See ya.
next time.
Bye. Get back to work.
Number goes up. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems good.
Yeah, I think that went swell.